Good afternoon. This is the Then and Now. This is Coach Z, and I have one of the greatest basketball players in the history of St. Louis as my guest today. Uh, Big Steve Stipanovich, Smet legend, Missouri University legend. And before I start talking to Steve, I have a shout out to a few people. First of all, I have a shout out to Jim Kennedy, who was going to come in here today. And Jim had a fall and had not a real serious injury, but enough to keep him out of the studio. But we know he's going to have a speedy return, and when he has his return, he'll come in here and talk with us. He was on the first Smet, I think, state championship team, Jim Kennedy.
Yeah, he was. He's always kind of a mentor of mine. He was 4 or 5 years older than me, and we came in as freshmen at the Smet, and he had just graduated, and he was like, "Oh, Jim Kennedy," and so he had a great career at
Yeah,
Mizzou.
terrific guy. And then I want to have a shout out. A friend of mine had a daughter who lost her life to suicide a couple years ago, and yesterday was the I don't want to use the word anniversary, but that was the day that her daughter had passed away, and I had a contact with her. And I just want to tell everybody out there that people who have mental health problems, stay with them, hang with them, give them all the support they need, and never make it a stigma. Make it something that it just happened, and you're going to do everything you can to help them. And then I want to also have a shout out to a buddy of mine, Todd, who is a survivor of pancreatic cancer, and he got a very good, I guess, report from his doctor yesterday that things are good. And another buddy of mine, boy, I'm talking, another buddy of mine had surgery, some brain surgery, and that turned out okay. So those were two wonderful results yesterday, and now we can get away from those types of topics, and we can talk to Mr. Stepanovich. Steve, it's great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. I don't know what to call you. I knew you back when I was young in high school, Mr. Zetcher, Coach Zetch. I don't know. I call you Zetch, I
Well,
guess.
that's fine. Yeah, Grauer used to call me Mr. Zetcher.
Oh, yeah.
And when Rich took the job over at the DeSmet, he called me and he said, "Could you come over here? I'd like to talk to you." And I said, "Sure." And he said, he said, "We don't have a conference yet of officials. Um, would you get us the officials?"
Mm.
So for about 3 or 4 years, I really guys who I thought were really good officials. I sent them over to Rich, and Rich, as you know, Steve, Rich had a tough schedule every year, so you better have some pretty good officials who could officiate those games.
Yeah, Coach Grauer, what a blessing he was to me because I came in just met my sophomore year. I went to Chaminade my freshman year, and then long story, but Harold Alcorn, who was a good friend of my dad's, they both played ball at St. Louis University, and Harold was. We were playing a pickup game one day. He goes, Sam, you got to get your son over to the Smet and play for Coach Rich Grauer. He is, he'll really do a good job, with your son. And so my dad listened, and so I transferred to DeSmet, and boy, was that a great experience for me as far as my development as a player is concerned. But no question, Coach Grauer was a legend and a great coach, a great teacher. Yeah, I still stay in touch with him. We go to Bible study every other Monday night. We have been for years, so I
No
stay in
kidding.
touch with him, yeah.
Well, he's a good man. Grauer, I played baseball against Grauer
Mhm.
in the semi-pro league,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you, I was a pretty good pitcher, and I could get two strikes on Grauer with the blink of an eye. The third strike, foul ball, take a pitch, another foul ball, take a pitch. And then he'd hit a little, what do they used to call those Texas leaguers to right field? I could never get him out. He was a competitor, wasn't he?
No, he was, you know, in every way. And I mean, you're a coach, which means you're a teacher. You were a teacher as well. So was Coach Grauer. And you run into guys that had him for class, and they always say he's the best teacher I ever had. So a good coach is a teacher, of course, and he was a great teacher and a coach. And the guy is brilliant. Even now, his mind is so sharp. He knows the lineup of the Cardinals, what pitcher should pitch against this batter, is a lefty, righty, all that stuff. And he loves talking sports even to this day. And his mind is like a steel trap. He's just so sharp. It's fun to talk to him. And he's got opinions about any subject, just pick it, and he's just a very interesting person to talk to about any subject because he's so well versed. He has a lot of knowledge and wisdom, and again, he's doing well.
Well, I had, Tamara Shear in here, she's the, sports gal for Channel 4,
Mm.
and she follows, St. Louis U basketball. That's one of her big venues that she covers, and I don't know if she was aware until that day, but I told her point blank right in this studio, I said, "St. Louis U probably would not have a basketball program if it wasn't for Rich Grauer. He saved them."
I think so. I think that he was able to get the local guys, and he was so nice to me because I was playing for the Indiana Pacers at that time, and so all summer long, he would allow me to come down and during the day and work out with his team and Anthony Bonner and Roland Gray and those they had good teams.
Very good teams.
Roeder came in there. He transferred from I think Kansas State, and we had great pickup games. He let me work out with the team, lift weights, and he just kind of adopted me and let me do whatever I wanted, which was a big help to me. But he did. I think most people that follow that era would say the same thing.
Well, he should have let you come in the weight room and do everything. You helped him win 63 straight games. Steve, tell me about
It
that
was
streak. That's unbelievable.
It was. I tell you, you look back and it was stressful. I remember sitting there, halfway through the season with my teammates thinking, "Man, I can't wait till the season's over," because it was just so, the streak and you have to remember those games, a lot of those games were very close. Our secret weapon, our secret sauce was Coach Grauer's ability to coach well down the stretch on these close games. And there's a story, I don't know, I think I might have told you before, but we were in the middle of that stretch. Probably it was my senior year, and we were probably game 50 or so in a row, and you were officiating one of our games, and it was at the Smet. It was close. It went down to the wire, and evidently, at least you thought you made a bad call against us. It wasn't a good call. Happens, but we end up winning the game. And the next day we're at practice, and coach goes, "You guys will go sit down over there." And you came and you spoke to our team and basically apologized for making a bad call. And we were like stunned. It was like, oh, okay. We were very impressed by that because you didn't have to do it. It was a very professional move. But I think you knew the magnitude of that moment because we had a streak going. And of course, our goal was to win a state championship, was trumped the streak, but it was a big deal to us, and your involvement in that, and you took the time to come and talk to us as a team. I've never forgot that. It
You
was
know,
impressive.
years ago, when I retired, Bob Knight,
Mm,
um, well, my son-in-law, Andy Brown, Andy, I didn't know it, Steve, but he knew I was retiring, and he had gotten a hold of every coach he could
mm,
find that I had
yeah,
officiated for in collegiate basketball. And could you just write something? And he put together a scrapbook of mine. It's a treasure, and
yeah.
I never take it out of the house. I don't want anything to ever happen to it. And Bob Knight said, he said the reason I liked you as an official is that you never thought you were bigger than the game.
Yeah.
And from him, and you know what? Uh, I was told years ago by John Erickson, this is before, long after I had that deal with you guys, but
Yeah.
Erickson, he was a supervisor of the Big 12.
Yeah.
And he said, when you make a mistake, don't look over your shoulder and walk over, look them in the eye and say, I missed it. There you are.
That's a principle of life, by the way, because I always, when I teach kids basketball, I don't do it much anymore, but I was a coach for a while, and I would say, basketball is a game of mistakes. Our job is to make less mistakes than you. And so to have the humility to say, okay, it was a bad pass, or, that's very team bonding. And what you just described is you would think most officials would have that mentality, and most do probably, but there's some that don't, whereas, I screwed up. And when I was in the NBA, it was so funny. We had great officials back then, and
Well,
you
they're
could
the
talk
best.
to
They're
them.
the best, aren't they, Steve?
And so they would make a bad call. They would almost always say, "Yeah, bad call," and we would always say, "Well, give me a makeup call," and they would. It was kind of an unspoken way that things were done. Now, sometimes they wouldn't. I mean, if it was like an obvious mistake or foul, and you go, "Give me a makeup call," they would,
Yeah.
they would laugh. But that was always the comeback. "Oh, give me a makeup call," and they oftentimes would, which was kind of cool, I thought.
Well, I think the thing that got me on the good side of Coach Knight, it was a preseason NIT game at Madison Square Garden,
Oh,
and it was really Bob Knight and then North Carolina, Dean Smith. Okay, and it turned out
wow.
that year. Now this is a preseason, but it turned out that year both those teams probably had the worst seasons they'd had in years. But going into that game, it's like, gee whiz.
Yeah.
So anyway, Kentucky, Kentucky, an Indiana kid's throwing the ball in. I'm on the baseline, and as he throws the ball in, I was too close to him, and he kind of brushed against me, and the ball just squirted out of his hands and went flying out of bounds. Well, I give it to North Carolina. Well, Knight
Oh, yeah.
erupts. What are you talking about? It's, so I went over to him and I said, Coach, I said, look, I said, I caused that ball to go out of bounds. I said, I was too close to the kid when he threw it in and
Yeah.
his arm hit me. He says, well, you know what I'm going to tell you then? You get
Out of the way.
the rest of this game, buddy boy. And I walked away, but it was good because and I think that's when he really kind of trusted me.
Well, let me ask you this. So Bobby Knight, very polarizing, can be very intimidating, I would think. And you're coaching, you're officiating a Bobby Knight game, an Indiana game. I mean, do you have the capability to just treat that as a normal game, or you kind of have in the back of your mind, oh, this is Coach Knight. If I screw up, he's gonna rip into me.
You know what? And Ed Hightower and I both talked about this
Oh,
about a week ago. Knight, we both liked him or respected him. That's a better word. He made us better because when you officiated for Bob Knight, two things that Bob Knight probably knew as well or better than any official. He knew traveling. And he told me one day, he says, you know why, this is at a camp. He said, you know why officials miss traveling? I said, no. He said, well, they watch the guy receive the pass. They watch him catch it. You know they're going to catch it. You got to be watching their feet.
yeah,
Well, that's pretty good advice, right?
yeah,
And then hand checking, he didn't want his kids to put their hands on the opponent, and you better not let the opponent put their hands
yeah.
on you. And I don't care if it was soft, get their hands off, Ron. Yes, sir. So, but I liked him, and yeah, he made me better. And
Yeah, I
was
would
I
think so.
intimidated a
Yeah,
little? Of course.
yeah,
I'm maybe 6 feet stretching me, and I have to go over and talk to a guy. He's not only is he big, he's thick, and
yeah.
he towers over you.
No, I mean, a lot of several teammates of mine were ex-Indiana guys, and you come across them in the league when I was in the NBA, and the first thing you say, "Tell us a Bobby Knight story. Tell us a Bobby Knight story," because they were fascinating. And at the end of the day, the consensus was Coach Knight would do anything for you. Um, you had to go through his program. It was tough. And he only was hard on the guys that he knew that can take it. And there's different emotional maturities, as you know, when with kids coming into your program, and so at the end of the day, they all had positive experiences, and you see that program from a distance, and you see the highlights of what Knight was capable of doing, throwing chairs, and he did those things. But at the end of the day, his ex-players that played for him had a lot of respect for him.
Yeah. Well, Steve, let's go to Steve Stipanovich right now, okay? And obviously, I can't rank guys, but certainly you're one of the greatest basketball players to ever come out of the city of St. Louis and the suburbs and whatever. Okay, state of Missouri, quite frankly. And tell me how it all started. I mean, from the time you were a young guy, when did you really realize, Steve, that this is something you loved and something you wanted to pursue?
A good question. I think that back in those days, my brother and I had a brother Ted. He was a year older than I was, and then I had a younger brother and a younger sister. And sports was it. I mean, that's all we did. I mean, we just played sports nonstop. We were good at sports. We loved sports. That's what everybody did. We just played sports, and And so we followed the Cardinals. My brother Ted and I, we'd lay in bed every night and listen to the Cardinal game on the radio. And if there was a Blues player that was signing autographs at some store, we would be like the first in line with our hockey sticks. And so we were really into sports. And so, my dad played ball at St. Louis University. He was 6'5". And so as I was a decent athlete, played all sports. Baseball was the one I liked the most, but even played little league football for a year. We just played sports, and then all of a sudden I started growing, and I was getting taller. I was 6 foot 5 as a freshman in high school, and guys was telling my dad, and they said, he's got a chance to be pretty good at basketball. I wasn't a very good player, but I was very coordinated for my size. I could run well, and I had potential, and people were starting to notice that. And I of course, love sports. And even my freshman year, I played football at Chaminade, because my brother Ted went there, so I just went there, and track, and and basketball, of course. And so I started even growing, and I was at the end of my freshman year, sophomore year, I was 6'9", 6'10", as I said before, they said, "Go to the Smet. You need to play for Rich Grauer. He'll develop you well." And so that's what I did. I just, it wasn't rocket science. It was like, okay, I like basketball. This is going to be my future. So I started focusing on basketball and playing for Coach Grauer and just Smet.
Did Rich, did he work with you,
Yeah.
as a big man and with footwork and all those types of things,
He
Steve?
did, and more so than I desired at the time, but he was Bobby Knightish in a way, and he was a workhorse, and we and especially me, but the teams in general, we were very well coached, and he was very stickler on the fundamentals, and for me, I would stay after practice, and he would do extra drills, and, uh, um I mean, the thing that we laugh about most with my teammates even to this day is that he had a broom that was some carpet taped around it, and so the centers would have to, when they played me in practice, they had this broom that made me, shoot the ball a little bit higher and be more challenging offensively for me, but just stuff like that. He was very creative. I had bricks, that I had to, as soon as I walked in the gym, I had to carry 2 bricks over my head because he wanted me to have my hands up all the time and throughout the game and rebounding and stuff on defense. But um, again, hindsight's 2020. Looking back, I thought, man, that was invaluable because if I would have went to a program that just kind of have an average coach, I don't think I would have developed near as much as I would have with Coach Grauer's tutelage.
Well, you, finally, we'll go to your senior year, and, you play in the, McDonald's All-Star Game, and, they say that McDonald's All-Star team might be the greatest All-Star team of all times. I got some names here, Isaiah Thomas, James Worthy, Sam Bowie, Sidney Lowe, Ralph Sampson, Steve Stipanovich, Derek Wittenberg. I mean, I think there were 11 or 12 guys in that game who went to
Yeah.
the NBA. Is that right, Steve?
Yeah, John Paxson, I don't know if you mentioned him, Antoine Carr. I mean,
Yep.
it was here's what happened. Here's kind of my development. I really wasn't that good of a player in high school until my senior year. I remember my junior year, I was probably, I wasn't much. I wasn't I wasn't that good. I played on good teams, but my junior year, I was okay. But I went to a camp in Milledgeville, Georgia, with all those guys you mentioned. We were at that camp. It was, gosh, I forget the name of it, some all-star camp you had to be
Sure.
invited to. And all of a sudden, for whatever reason, I really dominated that camp. I'm playing against Bowie and Sampson, and all of a sudden, all the college coaches were there. And they started calling Coach Grauer like Monday night, Tuesday night. Hey, this kid, what's up with this kid? And I made a big jump in my skill level, and I really played well against those guys all week. And so from that moment on, between my junior and senior year, I made a big jump in my abilities and skill level. And then from then my senior year, it was just crazy town at DeSmet. All the coaches were there, and I was just really heavily recruited, probably maybe the top 2 or 3 most heavily recruited high school players that year coming out of high school.
Well, so you're being recruited, and talk about some of the schools you were thinking about, but then we'll talk about the guy you ended up with down in down in Columbia,
Storm and Norman, yeah.
Storm and Norman.
Hey, it's funny because my brother Ted was back then. Again, it was back before the internet and all that stuff. But if you were a parade All-American, you that was the ultimate parade All-American. So my brother Ted played football at Chaminade. He was a parade All-American. He was heavily recruited. I mean, Barry Schweitzer, Tom Osborne from Nebraska, they were at our house a lot. My brother Ted was heavily recruited for football. He ended up going to the University of Colorado. So then I became a parade All-American as well. And it was a circus almost at that point. And so back then you can take 6 college visits. I took 5 of mine before the season even started. I visited North Carolina, Dean Smith, Notre Dame, Digger Phelps, Kentucky, UCLA, and Duke.
That's it. That's the cream of the crop.
It was.
Yes.
And then after the season, I took my final visit to University of Missouri in Columbia. But yeah, those you probably remember this. My junior year, Duke played Kentucky in St. Louis in the Final Four for the championship game.
Yeah.
Mike Jaminski and Kentucky had their players, and I was at that game, and it was crazy. Now, was that because then
That was in '76, maybe.
yeah, so that was before high school, and then yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that weekend they had an all-star game here.
Mm-hmm.
The day before. So Dale Kelly, he would have worked the national final game, but
Yeah.
because Kentucky was in it, they didn't want him to referee that game because it's a Southeast Conference team. So he called me and he said, "You want to referee this All-Star game?" I
Uh-huh.
said, "Sure." So one of the coaches of the All-Star team was Billy Packer.
Oh my gosh, he just passed away.
And
man.
I know, and
Yeah.
so I probably ought to shut up right now, but he was so obnoxious. It's an all-star game. He's screaming and yelling, and I let Dale Kelly deal with him. I was just brand new. I didn't know
Yeah.
what to do. So, but that was a great weekend, and then Kentucky won that thing. I think it was Joby Hall, the coach then.
Joby Hall. Yeah, he recruited me. Yeah.
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 So okay, so now you make a big decision. You go down to Columbia, Missouri for Storm and Norman. Tell me how he recruited you, Steve. How was he?
Yeah, they were, Coach Grauer had made some rules. He was very stickler to the rules, and I think the college coaches can only come, I want to say Tuesday, at a Tuesday practice. So Tuesday, the gym was just full of coaches, and the Missouri guys, George Schultz and, Gene, what was it? All the coaches were there. Whenever they could. I mean, and then they would have alumni come to all the games, and they didn't mess around. They put the full court press on me, and so I wish I could say I had some big revelation or something, but we just decided to stay close to home. Again, there wasn't really ESPN wasn't even so my parents could come and watch the games and stuff. So
Well, also, what was fantastic when you decided to go to the University of Missouri, John
yeah.
Sundel, so pretty good guard, right?
John was out of Kansas City, and we had talked a little bit throughout the year. And John was a scorer. He was talk about a great athlete and a great player. Oh my gosh! So he'll deny this, but I don't know. It wasn't like some big thing. Okay, we're going to go to Missouri together, but it just happened that we both went there, and his brother. Bob Sunvold, who coaches at UMSL, he was just inducted into the St. Louis Hall of Fame. He was our assistant coach too. He came with John, and it was my assistant coach through the 4 years when I was at Mizzou.
It's a great family, aren't they?
Oh yeah.
When I was a supervisor in the MIAA, Bob, he was at Central Missouri for a while.
Oh yeah.
And then he took that job at Kansas City, UMKC.
Uh-huh.
and I think he regretted not staying at Central Missouri longer. That was a great job, and Jerry Hughes was the AD there, and he treated their coaches like they were Division
Well,
One
Kim
guys.
Anderson was coaching there for a
And
long
then
time,
Kim
yeah,
then Kim came there, and Kim won a national
yeah.
championship there.
Yeah, yeah.
So your team at Missouri, you guys won 4 Big 8 championships.
Yeah.
Who were the guys, the guys that I would remember and
Yeah, okay,
know
well,
John.
we had a good team. Ricky Frazier, oh my goodness, he was a player. He played at St. Louis University for a year. I think transferred to, he can play, Ricky Frazier, Curtis Berry, Steve Wallace. The guy that we really looked up to was Larry Drew. Now, Larry Drew was a senior when I was a freshman, and he was the man, and he ended up having a long pro career as well in the NBA. But oh gosh, Prince Bridges, Ron Jones from Cape Girardeau, Barry Laurie, Mike Foster. I mean, there's a bunch of guys came through there, and Norm really liked to coach, recruit Missouri kids. And I think at
Yes.
one point we were playing North Carolina my senior year. They had Jordan. We were in St. Louis at the arena, and they had won the national championship the year before. And so Dean Smith and his team came to St. Louis to play us, and it was a close game, and we won that game. And for a majority of that game, we had 5 Missouri players on the court. And I remember Norm being kind of proud of that. Guys at Missouri playing and beating an ACC powerhouse, North Carolina.
Well, you talk about intimidated with Bobby Knight. Well, I knew Norm.
Yeah.
I went down to Missouri, and he was a freshman baseball coach. So he was my freshman baseball coach, and he tells people today, because Norm, he's got a
Oh,
really
he was,
dry sense of humor.
yeah.
Norm says, he said if you were pitching today, he said you'd be worth a lot of money. He said, but when you were pitching for me, every time you went out to the mound to throw batting practice, I got out of my seat and I went behind the screen. He says you couldn't find the plate, but
Yeah.
what a great guy. But then I start refereeing, and I'm looking at him like, whoa. First game I had, I think, was down at Missouri, and was a preseason game. I was brand new in the league,
Yeah. What year was that, by the way? Do you know?
1976, 75 or
Yeah.
76.
Okay. Yeah.
So he's on one bench, and Haskins is on the other bench,
Oh, yeah.
and here I am, and I'm a duck out of water. I don't belong there, I'm thinking, why did I just stay in high school? I don't like this. I'm not having any fun. And they
Yeah.
beat me up that game, both those guys.
Yeah.
But as the years went by, Norm became a pretty good supporter of mine
Yeah.
and treated me really well. And then when I was inducted into the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame, I think I might have told you this. My grandson, who's the one who, Jake Brown, who's the one who's taking care of this podcast,
Yeah.
he was a young guy then, and he came down there with my family. And Norm Stewart literally took my grandson by the hand the whole weekend and just walked around with him.
Yeah. No, Coach Stewart, first of all, has a great sense of humor, and I know that he would use that against you guys, all the officials. He would make jokes, and he used humor a lot, and he was a very good storyteller, and he remembers everything. He remembers everything. You could just say, "Hey, remember we played K-State my sophomore year, and we're in Manhattan," and he'll go play by play all the way in the fourth quarter. So good man, and he was very similar to Coach Grauer. I mean, he was a stickler on fundamentals. I mean, we had to do things a certain way. I was on a podcast with John Sumbold a year or two ago, and I mean, John was a very intelligent guy, and I mean, we were instructed, get the rebound, never turn to the inside because that's where all the guards are, and keep the ball above your head, rotate to the outside. John would do his U-cut, and I could just close my eyes, and I didn't even have to see him. I could just turn, pivot to the outside, and throw it to John, and making his U-cut, and there we go on the fast break. It was just automatic. We had really good systems in place with Coach Stewart, and he was just a good coach. And there were some characters in the Big Eight, as you know, back then. all the coaches were just kinda larger than life, just kinda characters, and Hartman from Kansas State, Billy Tubbs, uh,
Ooh, oh, Here
Johnny
Comes
Orr.
Johnny, with the song and when he used to come out of there. One year, I'm not kidding you, they were ranked high early in the season, Iowa State, and they went on the
Yeah,
road, and they came back. I think they had lost 4 in a row on the road,
uh-huh.
and I got the game. It's just preseason still, and, they're supposed to be one of the top 10 teams, and they've lost 4 in a row, and he comes out of the, dressing room, and he comes running. I'm out there. He comes running on the floor, Steve, and he's got his fist up in the air, and they're playing that here's Johnny, that Johnny, and he's running around that arena. That place was absolutely crazy before we ever threw the ball up. He just had a way about him, didn't he?
Yeah, they were all characters. They
Yeah.
and Norm had a good relationship with them all, and he would call Hartman from Barney Rubble. "Oh, we gotta play Barney Rubble again. We're gonna lose to Barney Rubble, are we?" I mean, it was just so funny, and, he'd have nicknames for all those guys, but it was boy, it was competitive. I mean, my goodness, you go to Manhattan, Kansas, you go to Stillwater, Oklahoma to play Oklahoma State. Kansas, especially, oh my goodness, Kansas was you're dodging whiskey bottles as you're running off the court. I mean, it was brutal.
It's
So,
unbelievable. Well, um, the Big 8, Norm, told me this, I think, when I had him on the podcast, that he went up to New York. That's right when the Big East was starting to kind of, and Norm thought that, they had a meeting up east with some of the, TV people. I don't know who Norm went with, but anyway, he said, the day before there was a fight in the stands, and, I don't know, something else happened that was really crazy, and there was a snowstorm, and still the
mm,
people got to the arena and filled it up, and he said to the people, "You don't think the national audience would like something like this?" And, he's talking
yeah,
about Tubbs
yeah.
and Norm and Johnny Orr and Jack Hartman. He was the smartest
Oh, yeah,
guy on the bench with
yeah,
officials. I'll tell you what he would do, Steve. You miss a when you miss him. I mean, you know it. Come on.
yeah.
You'd go by him, he'd never yell at you. He'd say, "Hey, Ron, you're a hell of a lot better than that."
No.
There
Yeah,
you are,
yeah,
right? But anyway, listen, so now the NBA, you're the number 2 pick
yeah,
overall, Steve. What an honor.
yeah. Yeah, I was, and, just going up to Indianapolis, which was a great town, great people, great owners. I had a great situation there, and, I love playing in the NBA. That was, to me, the most fun was the NBA.
Well, you're a competitor, and now you're competing against the very best.
Well, in the NBA, first of all, there's no classes, there's nothing, you just focus on one thing, and it's basketball, and
Yeah.
you have 12 guys, on the team, and you become very close, and it's up to you. There's no one giving you making you work out in the off season, no one giving you a program to do, you just had to come in shape, and it was hard. I mean, I was playing against guys back then, everybody wanted to build their team around the center. And, the guys that I had to play Moses Malone and Jabbar and Robert Parrish and McHale and, I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, everybody had a really good big man, and it was my job to guard him and Olajuwon and Ewing and Patrick Ewing, and it was kind of I think, a great era of the NBA when the Celtics and the Lakers were going at it every year. And I just think there was just a lot of good players, a lot of good teams. But it was, to me, you look at high school was fun because we would just beat everybody. And then college was hard. It was very hard in college. But if I had to choose which era was I enjoyed the most, it was the NBA.
You really did enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's tremendous. So, Steve, you were in the NBA and you had an injury, correct?
Yeah, my left knee. Yeah. Yeah, my left knee started hurting at the end of my 5th year, and, I just got married and bought a house in Indianapolis and just thinking, "This is where I'm gonna be." And then my left knee was about ha this the that half year, my left knee would hurt, and but it would quit hurting, and I didn't miss any games or anything. So then I go home and, uh, they go, "I'll just rest this summer," because we always go up to Indianapolis and play all summer, not all summer, but, a lot. And they said, "I just rested," and so I go to training camp. I said, "My knee's, like, hurting worse," and they go, just take it easy during training camp." So we're playing a preseason game against the Mavericks. I remember it was in Indianapolis. I'm like, I don't know what to say, but my knee is killing me." So they finally got a CAT scan and an MRI, and they said, "Oh my gosh, you have a pretty serious condition." It was called avascular necrosis. I think nowadays it's much more treatable than it was back then. So I had a surgery, then I had another surgery, and then I had a series of doctors, the Lakers doctors and the Celtics doctors, and they had about 4 doctors, and I would travel around. Cleveland had a doctor. Anyway, so I would travel around. It was kind of a mysterious thing that the lack of blood supply in the bone was just not getting better, and so I sat out what would have been my 6th year, just having surgery, trying to get better. So now it was training camp for my 7th year, and I remember going. The final doctor was in Santa Barbara, California. Actually, I forget his name, but I had to go and just get a final analysis. Can this knee Is it well enough to continue to play in the NBA or not? And I remember I was thinking, I'll just get better. It's no big deal. Okay, so I go to this doctor for kind of a go no go decision, and I remember him saying, your knee is not good enough. You have to retire. And I'm like, dang, I was stunned. I remember calling my wife and said, Terry, I think it's over. And from California, and sure enough, um, it was, and my knee kind of caved in, and because the surface caved in, and where this spot was, and on the outside of my left knee, and I've had 6 surgeries total, probably 7 total on that left knee.
7 surgeries.
Yeah,
So, Steve, let me ask you, and this is kind of a personal thing, and you don't have to answer me, but when you get a final decision like that, psychologically, I mean, emotionally, it's gotta be
yeah.
tough.
I mean, I just
That's what you've
assumed
done your whole
like
life.
like any I never was injured really in my career ever, and I just figured that it's like any injury, it's gonna get better, but I was stunned. I mean, it was like, 'cause my wife was pregnant, I think, we had a baby, and she was, I think, pregnant with our 2nd baby, and when that, uh, news came down the road, it was like, I just figured I'd be playing another 5, 6, 7 years, and it's like, what do we do now? I mean, it came out of left field, I guess,
Yes.
mentally for me, because I just thought I was gonna get better, so,
Well, so then that's the end of that,
yeah.
and then you move on to do other things in your life, and
Mhm.
then you became a basketball coach at
Yeah.
Westminster, a women's basketball coach.
Yeah, I have, 5 daughters and a son, so we have 6 kids, and so at the time, my 4 oldest kids went to Westminster, and loved the school, great place. So they needed a girls coach. I said, "I'll coach." And so I was a varsity girls coach for 3 years. I had actually 2 daughters on the team, and we had good teams. Frank Cusimano's daughter was on the team, and Armstrong, the Blues, Doug Armstrong's daughter was on the team. She was really good. And we won a bunch of games. We won a lot of games actually, and it was really fun. I really enjoyed that. And again, we won games. That always makes things a little bit more fun. We were in the Final Four one year, but we didn't win at all. But so anyway, I was coaching. I enjoyed that.
Well, also, one of your daughters who was really a good player, and she ended up going to St. Louis U, but tell
Yeah,
that story how nobody was recruiting her, and she
yeah.
had so
Sadie,
much talent.
yeah. Sadie didn't play. I mean, Sadie didn't play a lot of AAU. She didn't check that box, and nowadays, and back then that's what they looked at. And she was 6'3" and very coordinated, kind of like me, but she wasn't that skilled, and she was okay at our level. And so the AAU team had put a group of St. Louis. This is I guess between her junior and senior year, they put a team together, and they wanted Sadie to play. I said, "Yeah, I'll play," because her niece, her cousin, Sydney, who played for St. Joe, my brother's daughter. She was really good. She had a great college career as well. But anyway, so again, no one was recruiting her. I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" And she when she played on this AAU team, she probably averaged 2 points a game. She was just kind of a backup center to Sydney. And, I'm like calling I'm not calling, like, Southeast Missouri coaches, like, "Oh, no," I'm calling these mid-major schools, and they don't even wanna look at it. I'm like, "This is crazy." I mean, you can teach someone basketball. I mean, a 6'3" girl that that's coordinator, you could learn basketball pretty quickly. So, Elisa Stone was at all the AAU stuff. She was the head coach at St. Louis University, and she called me up one day and said, "I want your daughter to come to our school." I go, "Really?" Okay. And so she was smart enough to see the potential. So Sadie goes to SLU, St. Louis University, and plays for Lisa Stone, was a 4-year starter and the all-time leading scorer in the program when she graduated. And then another girl broke it recently. But so sh again, I was right. I was thinking, well, these coaches, I mean, how many, somebody's going to take a chance on her, but no one would except Lisa Stone. So I was very grateful for
Well,
that.
that must have been very frustrating too, to know how good your
Well,
daughter's potential was. I mean, and
you
all
know,
these don't you wonder sometimes, people go out, coaches, they have assistant coaches, they go out and they recruit and they look and this and that, and how many kids do they miss?
well, it's hard to judge talent. How a person's going to do at the next level, whether it's high school to college or college to pros, it's a very difficult job, and there's a lot to it other than just their statistics. But I had another daughter, Kelly. She was our second oldest. She was a volleyball player, played on a really good club team. Again, I mean, no offers. I mean, she was 6'1", outside hitter, very, very good, but not great. But played on a really good AAU team, and all these other girls were playing, getting scholarships and everything, and Kelly wasn't. And all of a sudden, University of Arkansas called up, and we'll take your daughter. I said, okay, and so she went down there. Again, 4 years she started and was all SEC her senior year, and she played all the way around. So usually in college at that level, your tall girls come in and they hit, and when they rotate to the back row, they put the short girls in. But Kelly played all the way around her senior year,
Really?
which is unheard of for a 6'1" hitter to play back row. And so she was all SEC her senior year. And then I had another daughter, um, Hannah, who uh, went to Westminster for 3 years. Then she went to Clayton High School her senior year, and she was a volleyball. She was all state in volleyball, all state soccer goalie. And basketball was just something she did because her sister did, and she wasn't that serious about it. She was on this path to play uh, a volleyball at the next level, and so all of a sudden she starts scoring 25 points a game and 30 points and 20. I mean, we beat Ladue, which would never happen. I remember that. That was at your old school. That would never happens for Clayton, and we beat them and in dramatic fashion. And all of a sudden she goes, "I like basketball." And so she ended up wanting to play at the next level, and she played Division II. She played at Western Washington University, which was at the time was a top 10 Division II school. And so she ended up going up north of Seattle to Bellingham, Washington, and playing basketball there. Had a great time.
You know, and I'll get to this in a second. There was a great, you probably, oh, I'm sure you probably know her or know of her for sure. A great female athlete at St. Joe, Christian Focal.
Oh yeah, the legends,
How
the
good?
GOAT.
How good,
Yeah.
Steve?
Oh
I
my
mean, she was
God.
something else, wasn't she?
Yeah, yeah. She was. She was one of those athletes that you just shake your head and go, man, uh, you just born with that talent. But she was good.
Well, she played on a AAU team, seventh and eighth graders, before their freshman year, and
Yeah.
they were practicing over at Ladue. And Sharman Smith, she was a little gal that I had when she was a kindergartner, and then Sharman she went to Stanford and played, and she's a head coach now at the University of California, women's coach, Sharman
Oh,
is.
yeah.
So they're on this AAU team, and I'm coming in from baseball practice, and I said, "Yeah, I gotta go upstairs. I've heard about this Focal girl,
Ah.
eighth grader." So I went upstairs in that little gym, and I guess her hands weren't big enough to do this but she took a volleyball and she dunked it.
Oh my God. Yeah. that's all,
Steve,
enough said. Yeah.
I said,
Who does that?
I just turned around and went down the stairs. I said, I guess they've been telling me the truth about this girl.
Yeah.
But I guess 4 years at St. Joe, um, they won 4 state championships in volleyball and basketball.
Yeah. I mean, that's legend stuff there. Yeah.
You know, you're a legend too. So let me ask you that. Yes, yes, you are. Well, let me ask you this now. So you have all these daughters, and they're all great athletes. And this is for, yeah, we'll be done in a minute, but we're going to stay on for another minute or two, okay? So when your girls were growing up as a father, and all the parents today, I think they go way overboard with their kids, and they've got them getting this lesson and that lesson, and they're sending them to this camp and that camp and that. What was your mindset,
Yeah.
Steve? And you were an athlete.
You know, it's funny because, when you have played in professional sports, you see the other dads that played professional sports at these tournaments and stuff, and they're all the same way. It's like, oh, you know, they actually go the opposite way of the helicopter, parents, the sports helicopter parents, you want to call them. But so I was laid back. Of course, if they showed interest, I'd help them out, and they played, year select sports every once in a while. But to me, it was not an emphasis because to me it wasn't that big a deal. And I would get in trouble because we'd go to these volleyball tournaments, and all the dads would be setting up their cameras, filming everything. I'm like, what is this, ESPN or something? What you guys? And my thinking is that your kids only got so much talent. Okay, so your kids are great. Third grade, fourth grade basketball players. So what? By the time they're senior, because they play year round, by the time they're in high school, it's all going. Whatever talent you have is going to level out, and it is what it is. So don't make a big deal about it.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'll leave you with one quick story about my family. And by the way, I have 5 daughters and a son also.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow, I didn't
my
know that.
daughters, they, well, my oldest daughter, she is a mountain climber. She's gone up Mount
Yeah,
Everest recently, and she does it. She's 60 years old, Steve, and she climbs in the summer with a friend of hers every summer.
yeah, good for
Yeah.
her. Yeah,
But anyway, so one of my daughters, my grandson was a left-hand pitcher. So my daughter,
yeah,
her father pitched his whole life, but she got him pitching lessons.
yeah.
Okay. Her father doesn't know anything about pitching, so we'll get him lessons. So anyway, I go to his first game. I think he's in the 7th grade, and I'm down to Chesterfield,
Yeah,
and I'm in the stands, and conservatively speaking, he might have thrown 10 or 11 straight balls,
yeah,
not a strike. Coach doesn't go out to the mound. I'm embarrassed for him. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So I've had enough. I'm going home. I get up and I walk by my daughter. I said, whoever that pitching coach is, he owes you a lot of money.
Ah, ah.
Anyway, she laughed. She wasn't laughing then. Now she does. You know what I mean,
Yeah,
Steve?
that's funny.
But Steve, I wanted to say this. I really am honored to have you as a guest. You are definitely one of the greatest basketball players to ever come out of St. Louis, and not only a great basketball player, you represented the community in a really exemplary manner. One last thing, and then we'll sign off, and I'll let you have the last word.
Oh, okay.
I want to know about the bicycle, the
For-
one that you've kept forever.
Oh, wow. Is that funny or what? I went to Mizzou. I was like the most highly recruited player in the country, and we lived off campus. The players lived in this one part, about a mile off campus, maybe a half mile. I don't know, but I didn't even have a car. And I'm like, how am I going to get to class? So I go to the bike store and buy a Schwinn Continental bike. And my dad was going to get me a car, but it was going to be a few months. So I bought this bike, and it's really tall. I love it. And that was in 1979. I still have that bike, and I ride it even today. I was at 45, I don't know, so many years. But people will stop me on the street and take a picture of it. I had that bike when I was a kid. And so it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. I still have that bike, and I've rebuilt it a couple times. But yeah, it's from 1979. I bought that bike.
Unbelievable. Well, I always sign off by saying this. If you like it, the then and now, put a like,
Oh.
And then, if you wanna share it with your friends, and I hope most of you have friends, share it with your friends. And then today, this is one statement I can make that's a true statement. This is the youngest we'll ever be, Steve.
I know I'm 65 years old. It's surreal to look back and where did the time go, Coach? Where did the time go?
I don't know. It's gone. It's gone
It's
by.
gone.
Listen, you're
Yeah.
you're 65. I'm 86.
You don't look like it, that's for sure.
Well,
But
I probably
we should all be like you. It's 86. But I'm enjoying it. We got 10 grandkids and life is good and we're enjoying that. And my wife and I talk about it all the time. Our golden years are certainly special and we're gonna be like you, gonna make the best of them.
that's what I want to do. And I thank you once again for being here, Steve. Thank you.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.